Alrighty, Nathan Burnett, episode 51. It's been a hot minute, guys. It's been a hot minute. I ain't even gonna lie to you. It's been a minute. And I'm about to explain why. So don't even worry. I'm gonna give y'all an explanation. I owe y'all that much. To be fair, I did try to give my explanation the best I could previously. I made a community post for y'all that keep up with that, and I've just had a lot going on in my life. I'm trying to graduate college here soon. I got 1.5 months ish left this semester, and then next semester, and then hopefully I'll have my degree. And I've just been working 40 hours a week, dealing with a lot of personal stuff. Trying to treat my girlfriend. She's priority number one, so I can't blow her off for this podcast. And just other personal stuff. And again, I tried to make a community post about it, so hopefully y'all are understanding. But I finally have some free time, barely. So I figured we need to record something. It's been too long. I miss you guys, and I want to get back into this because I really want this podcast to grow. I want to have some fun with this, and yeah, so we're gonna get back into it. I already have 4 videos planned after this podcast episode goes up. I have a evaluation of Wembanyama on the Spurs, Harden to the Clippers, Dame to the Bucks, Jrue Holiday to the Celtics, and Chet Holmgren as well. So 4 or 5 videos, and I'm going to touch on each of those in today's episode, but I also wanted to do their own separate episodes scripted as well. But again, it's been too long since I've recorded anything, so I wanted to go ahead and hop into it. And even now, I'm recording this at almost 11 p.m. at night, so I got my coffee here, and we're ready to get into it. But again, I'm going to try and be as active as I can, but if I don't upload again, I hope y'all understand that I have some other things going on in my life. But I'm going to try and start the Instagram back up as well. I know the Instagram's been dead, and I've sort of talked about that in the past. There was no way for me to really make Instagram posts for a while, and there still really isn't. But I'm going to try and use the Photoshop and editing software on my public library computer, because I actually have some good editing software there. Because again, right now, the thing that I use to make my Instagram posts, like Photoshop and other stuff, my laptop doesn't support anymore. So that's why I haven't really been posting on Instagram or doing that much. But I think I got a plan to hopefully start that back up soon and get into that, because I think that will really help boost the channel as well. And maybe start the TikTok back up too, but we'll see. That one's on the fence, because the TikToks take a little bit more time to do than the Instagram post, because you actually have to record a video versus the Insta post. You just make a post. But yeah, hopefully Instagram starts back up. Hopefully YouTube starts back up. And again, I missed you guys, so hopefully y'all stick around. But let's go ahead and get into it, guys. All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is Wemby, because that's what everybody's been talking about, right? So all I can really say about Wemby right now is he's everything that we expected him to be. I made a whole video before Wemby was even in the draft lottery, before the Spurs had the first pick, I should say, about Wemby's fit on the Spurs, and I think it's going exactly according to plan. He's having amazing defense with his verticality. He's shooting amazing from mid-range, getting threes, and it's just a remarkable sight to see, and it's hard to expand on that because again, it's just everything we've been saying for so long. And we dominated the first couple games, but we've been losing the recent games. I'm pretty sure we lost to the Knicks today. I haven't checked the score, but last time I checked the score it was like 50-20. So we probably lost to the Knicks, and then we lost pretty bad to the Pacers. And I watched a little bit of it, and I read some of the comments on the YouTube video, and I agreed with some of the comments saying that even with Wemby being number one, it's the Spurs are still trying to figure out like what the play is. Like everybody sort of, because we play so much team ball with the Spurs, everybody's sort of questioning themselves of like, oh, should I pass it out, or oh, should I run to the rim? And it's not really clear. But I think that that's a good thing. Like it's gonna be a little rusty towards the beginning, but I would rather have us try and play team ball and fail for a little bit than just solely rely on Wemby too much. Because yes, Wemby is the number one pick and he's generational talent, but we expect him to change the trajectory of the Spurs, but we shouldn't rely on him too much because what if he gets injured and then we lose every game with him injured, or what if, I don't know, just something happens where he's not hitting his shots as well as he used to be. We need to have sort of skills spaced out here and there. And I think that's a really good thing. Like Zach Collins had a decent 20-point game the other day. Sohan and Keldon are still getting their shots. Doug McDermott was hitting threes. And I think it's really good for us to work every single person on the team, rather than just every single play be let's pass it out to Wemby. Especially because with him being a rookie, he's going to start getting, if we do that, he's going to start getting double teamed and everything else. And as good as Wemby is supposed to be, he's not Giannis yet. Giannis is such a big guy that Giannis gets triple teamed and he can still dunk over them. And Wemby has the opportunity to be like that, but he's still, as everybody says, he's still a little skinny to where if he gets, I got a bot in the chat. Sorry about that, guys. Where if he gets double teamed, it's pretty much over. Because he doesn't have that frame yet to really fight against that. And so I do think it is good that we try to diversify our offense. And there's going to be some people that will say like, oh, we aren't using Wemby's full potential, we got the number one draft pick and we're wasting it, all that kind of stuff. But you just really got to zoom out and like envision, like, you can't put all of your eggs into the one basket of Wemby. You got to rely on multiple things. You got to increase everybody's skills, not just be like, all right, we're going to level up Wemby to this level 1000 character and everybody else is still at level 50 or something. You have to diversify. But Wemby is coming out and doing everything that we expected him to do. So, with Damian Lillard, Dame time is Dame time. Give me just a moment here while I sip my coffee. Damian Lillard is Damian Lillard. He's gonna go out. He's gonna shoot those threes. But I have noticed, as I've been watching a lot of the Buck games, that the Bucks start out with a really good lead with Dame, and then they tend to lose it as they play, which has happened a lot with the Bucks. I've commented before about when they played the Celtics in the past in the conference finals or in the playoffs, that the Bucks with Mike Budenholzer especially tended to give up at the end, whether it be the end as in fourth quarter or the end as in game sevens. They tend to just not fight to get back the lead, or if they do have the lead, they sort of let off the gas a little bit. That's always been a problem with the Bucks. And I feel like it sort of stems from this level of cockiness that they have. Um, Especially getting Damian Lillard, I feel like everybody's just written them off already as like the champions, or at least the best in the Eastern Conference, and that's sort of leading the team to have this level of cockiness that nobody's going to beat them. And so when they get these, 20-point leads, 30-point leads, whatever it is, they sort of play it cool, and they play it cool too much where that lead starts to cut in half, and all of a sudden a 20-point lead turns into only a 4-point lead or something like that. And that's really hard to find evidence for unless you talk to the players directly, obviously. But that's just sort of what my assumption would be, is that it stems from a level of cockiness. And I also think that part of it has to do with their lack of defense. I loved Jrue Holiday as a defensive player. I really wish that we could have kept Jrue Holiday and instead traded Chris Middleton, because I do think that Jrue Holiday's defense was a huge part of how we won how the Bucks won the championship in the first place. But we've traded away a lot of defense recently, and especially with Jrue Holiday. And I think that lack of defense and loss of defense is going to make a huge impact. And we're going to start seeing that through these next couple games, again, with these leads that cut so fast and so easily because we aren't defending. And I wish we could have kept Jrue instead of Chris Middleton, but again, that just comes down to a team chemistry decision where Giannis really loves Chris Middleton, and the Bucks can't get rid of Chris Middleton without jeopardizing their relationship with Giannis is the problem. But had the relationship with Giannis not been an issue, I would have traded Middleton over Jrue Holiday. And it's gonna come down to the same thing that I've said with the Nets in the past when they had KD, Harden, and Kyrie, where I said you have an amazing offense, but is it gonna be an amazing offense enough where you have practically no defense when you had that Nets team? So your strategy is to outscore everybody that you play. So you really need to make sure that you're hitting your shots so that you can outscore everybody. Otherwise, they're going to outscore you because they're going to blow past you every single time. Really, the only defense that they have right now is their bigs. Portis, Giannis, obviously, and a little bit of Lopez. But I wouldn't say that they have that great of defense around the guard position. Again, Jrue Holiday was huge for that, and they don't have that anymore. But coaching will also make a huge difference in how this team plays because Damian Lillard is a guard, and Giannis is their first option. And it really just depends on how these plays are drawn out and how the coach makes Damian Lillard and Giannis play styles blend together. All the puzzle pieces are there, and I think it'll work out because Giannis has so many three-point shooters that he's surrounded by now. But the coach really needs to make it all blend in a good way. And the coach needs to put the finishing touches on it. So we'll move on to Jrue Holiday to the Celtics. So Jrue Holiday sort of is becoming their Marcus Smart replacement because they replaced Marcus Smart. He has a very similar skill set with his shooting and his defense. Jrue Holiday is another three-point shooter for them to add. I've always talked about how the Celtics are wanting to basically become the next Warriors. I mean, they lost to the Warriors, um, a couple years ago in the finals, and I feel like the Celtics really are trying to become the next Warriors, where they just load up on 3-point shooters and they just try and shoot it from beyond the arc the entire time. And Jrue Holiday definitely adds to that. Um, and again, with the Bucks losing Jrue Holiday's defense, that means the Celtics are getting Jrue Holiday's defense, which I think they really needed. A couple years ago, the Celtics, I have to look it up to get the exact numbers, but I believe the Celtics were in the top 5 of defensive teams. Let me look up NBA team defensive rating. But they were high up for defensive rating the last couple seasons ago, and then they immediately dropped off. So Boston Celtics were number 1 in defensive rating from the 2021 to 2022 season. And then 2022 to 2023, they were number 2 in defensive rating. And then this year so far, they're number 3 in defensive rating. But there was a while where they sort of dropped off in their defensive rating. I'm trying to find the year it was. So 2020 to 2021, the Boston Celtics were 13th. And 2019 to 2020, they were number 4. So they were number 4 in defensive rating. Then they dropped to 13th. Then after the 13th, they started being top 5 in defensive rating again. But I think that with them adding so many 3-point shooters, as I talked about, that they're not really focused on defense as much as they could be. And I feel like they should be adding more defense to their skill set. And Jrue Holiday accomplishes that. We're going to definitely see some more steals on the Celtics. But the problem is Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton both at times can be inconsistent. And that was also a problem with Marcus Smart as well when they traded Marcus Smart. So I was watching a Rusty Buckets video, and he sort of said that they traded inconsistency for other inconsistency. So it's a good trade, don't get me wrong, but if your problem with Marcus Smart was his inconsistency, and then you're not really fixing that because you're still getting inconsistency. And I put a really hot take on here on my notes, and people probably won't agree with me, but I think Kristapz Porzingis is going to be a bigger part for the Celtics than Jrue Holiday will be. Because if you look at the Celtics roster for the last couple years, they haven't really had like any bigs at all. They have Tatum as their power forward, and they've just been running with Tatum as their power forward for, how many years. But Tatum, again, plays like a guard anyway. I've talked about how Tatum has played with Kobe in the past and how that's given Tatum sort of this complex of wanting to play hero ball and being the main guy and everything, and making Tatum want to play like a guard like Kobe and everything. So Tatum isn't really playing like a power forward. So they really don't have any big guys, and you really need that, especially in today's game with people like Giannis, Jokic, etc. You need somebody that's able to get up, block those shots, guard the paint, all that. And the Celtics haven't really had that. And so I think adding Kristapz Porzingis will really help them, especially when, again, their biggest rival in the Eastern Conference is the Bucks with Giannis. And Kristaps Porzingis, of course, isn't anywhere on Giannis's level, but it's at least something. It's a start where Kristaps Porzingis can get more of those alley oops, more through the paint buckets, more paint crowding, more um, blocks, more rim protection, so on that you want from a center. And again, the Celtics have been missing a proper center for a while. And so they're getting that in Porzingis, and I think that Porzingis will end up actually proving more beneficial than Jrue Holiday will be. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Um, the other thing I have on here, speaking of trades, is will Jimmy Butler request a trade? So this has been a rumor that's been started for a while, and it's only getting worse with the Jimmy Butler emo thing. There's been so many opportunities where the Heat could have made a trade and failed, either with the whole Pat Riley sleeping meme or just terrible trade packages for people like Dame and so on. And we all remember how Jimmy Butler left the 76ers, and it was in a very crazy and dramatic way. And I think that Jimmy Butler, even though it's in like a funny way, like, oh, I'm emo now, like as a joke, I really do think he's starting to not like it in Miami with the failures that the front office has made. And with him already requesting a trade from the 76ers, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if in the next season or two, Jimmy Butler sort of played like a James Harden role where he sort of sits out and or not, doesn't sit out but plays at 50% capacity so that he can express his disdain for playing in Miami and instead go somewhere else. Everybody jokes about him going to the Celtics, him and Tatum teaming up, or, I don't know where he would go, but I could see him not being on the Heat, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know what team he would be traded to. I can't really think of any off the top of my head right now that I think he would be good for or who has the capability to trade for him. But he's definitely starting to get annoyed with the front office. Obviously, he's not made that a secret, but just how annoyed is he willing to get before he just decides to dip, basically. Um, I do want to talk about some first impressions from teams that I've had. Um, so a few of these again come from Rusty Buckets. I actually had a couple of these written down, and then I saw that he made a first impressions video, and he ironically said like some of the same exact stuff I was gonna say. So it seems like I'm just copying him, but I promise I'm not. Um, but I do want to touch on basically the same things that Rusty Buckets said and add on to it. So with the Bulls, I think it's time to sort of just blow it up and restart. The Bulls have tried too many seasons to try and make it work, and I don't think it is going to. Either somebody is injured or somebody's not hitting their shots, and they've been finishing low conference or leaving early playoffs pretty much every year, and I just think that they need to again blow it up. I mean, it's that simple. Um, they need to appreciate the assets that they do have right now while they still have them, and utilize their value to get some trades done, probably some draft picks, and just start over. With OKC, I put that Chet has had his welcome to the NBA moment. Chet has had a lot of uh, mess ups and mistakes these past few early games of the season. And with him being injured last season, I think he's still sort of getting adjusted to the pacing of the NBA. Um, and I think it's just going to take him a minute. But if Chet does mesh to this OKC team, I do think that OKC will be a decent playoff team. I think that OKC will probably still leave in the first round of the playoffs, but at least they'll make the playoffs. And I think they'll probably lose in five. I'll say I don't think they're going to get swept, but I don't think they're going to make 6 games either. So I'll say they'll probably lose in the first round to whoever they play in about 5 games, 5 or 6. Yeah, I'll give them 2 games in the playoffs. 5 or 6 would be my prediction if Chet starts to work out with this team. For the Lakers, it's Anthony Davis as always. Anthony Davis always has either been inconsistent or injured or playing at 50% or whatever it is, but Anthony Davis has always had his issues. I think he always will, and it's sort of dragging the Lakers down. And it's Anthony Davis. I mean, yeah, I've touched on him many times. So with the Nuggets, their biggest issue is going to be their depth, especially because as I'm recording this, Jamal Murray is now out 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. So it's a similar story to what's been happening what happened a couple seasons ago. Jamal Murray was out for basically the whole season, and the Nuggets couldn't do anything. With Jamal Murray, the Nuggets are amazing. They won a championship. Without Jamal Murray, they end up losing in the playoffs. So it depends on if Jamal Murray is going to be healthy or not. But the problem is they don't really have any depth. You know, you think of the Nuggets and you think of, Jokic, Murray, the rest of their starting 5, and that's about it. So, excuse me, I had to sneeze. Excuse me. But the Nuggets, it should be obvious that they need some more players. So the Bucks, I already touched on a little bit, but Giannis finally has some help now. It seems that Dame is sort of doing this on again, off again thing, where sometimes he scores 42 points a game or something, and other times he scores 5 points a game. So again, it just comes down to the coach and how well they're going to blend together. With the 76ers, I wrote these notes before Harden got traded, but there was no real playmaking, and Joel Embiid was being overpowered in the paint a lot, which is crazy. Well, not too crazy, but everybody, again, hyped up Embiid for a while, and I know a lot of people complain that Embiid did not deserve his MVP, and I pretty much agree. But you still have to admit that Embiid is pretty up there as one of the better tall guys in the league right now. But Joel Embiid was getting bodied as if he was like just this everyday like bad center. Like he was like Jakob Poeltl or something, and that's coming from a Spurs fan. Like he was just getting like ran over as if he was just a typical like average 70 overall center, and he's not. He's high 80s center at least, but he was getting overpowered and bodied, and there wasn't really any playmaking from the first couple games of the 76ers. And now they've traded away Harden, which means that they have one less shooter. But I actually do think that trading away Harden will help the 76ers, and I'll get into that in a second. But the Suns have no depth. With KD or Booker injured, or anybody on that team gets injured, they're basically screwed, and they can't do anything. And we saw that with the Spurs, where the Spurs beat them when I believe it was KD injured, but I could be wrong. I think there was somebody on the Suns that was injured that game. I'd have to double check. But then the Spurs came around and Wemby scored 38 points while Booker scored 31 anyway, so it didn't matter. But again, anybody on that team gets injured, and they're going to be a first-round exit maximum. So, but with the Clippers, I want to touch on because of Harden. And I know that some people will see where I'm coming from with this, and other people are going to say this is a really hot and terrible take. The Clippers aren't going to finish far at this playoffs. I think that the Clippers are going to be first-round exits max. I really don't think that trading for Harden is really going to make that much of a difference. And again, I'm going to make a whole video on this, but people that are saying that Harden to the Clippers is such a monumental and game-changing move, I think are so stupid because it changes nothing. The problem with the Clippers is that everybody on that team has not played together enough and is always injured. Even when Kawhi played with the Spurs, Kawhi was getting bodied by the Spurs because he just hasn't played enough for the Clippers. And all I can say is it's literally going to be a repeat of the Nets. I cannot make that any more clear. Everybody said that when the Nets trade happened, oh my God, it's KD, Kyrie, and Harden. This is going to destroy the league. The league is over. And then them three ended up playing like less than 20 games together or whatever it was. They barely played together at all because one of the three of them was always injured. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing with the Clippers. Paul George and Kawhi, one of them is always injured. Harden now recently has been having his injury issues because he's getting older. And I just think that they are going to be... they're going to be too injured to do anything. Let me check if Russ still plays for... does Russell Westbrook still play for the Clippers? He does. Okay. So I could see Russ and Harden linking up again for a lot of shots, just like they did in Houston. Russell Westbrook and Harden go way back, as I'm sure a lot of NBA fans know. But for everybody saying that Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George is such an insane matchup, I strongly disagree because I think it's going to be the exact same as the Nets where they're always injured. They never really play together. And it's just everybody on this team so many players on this team, but they can't do anything with it because they aren't playing well or they aren't playing together or both. But that's sort of my take on it. So I wanted to go to some of the NBA's articles because I wanted to basically rate and break down sort of their takes from the NBA itself. So they posted like what their series predictions are going to be and some people to watch and things like that. So let me pull the articles back up and I will go through those. And then I also wanted to touch on some players that I think are doing really well. Again, a lot of these come from Rusty Bucket's video. But I wanted to give my own take on it based on what Rusty Bucket said, because a lot of the takes that he had, I've said in my previous videos, and so for him to sort of say some things I've said in the past is a bit crazy because he's again sort of confirming um, takes that I've had, and let me pull up these links. Sorry. All right, I think that's all of them. Now let me switch my thing here. All right, here we go. So this was an article they had. Knicks, Celtics, Mavs, Spurs, second most watched opening night ever. And a big reason for that was Wemby, of course, and then Luka with Kyrie, and Celtics Knicks have always had a bit of a rivalry as well. So not much to say there, but I want to go through these 24 key storylines. So Bucks massive trade for Damian Lillard. We already talked about that. Even with Chris Paul, another title will be tough for the Warriors. I didn't even touch on Chris Paul with the Warriors at all. So I'll have to do that in another video, I guess. Will additions of Jrue Holiday and Kristapz Porzingis be enough for the Celtics? Talked about that a little bit. Kristapz Porzingis, again, I think will actually be more important than Jrue Holiday. Grizzlies face a tough climb while awaiting Ja Morant's return. So I was going to touch on that a little bit, but it seems like Memphis is losing a lot of their games for obvious reasons. Ja Morant's suspended, and they don't really have too many backup players now since the Memphis has made a couple trades the last few seasons, and Memphis is just sort of screwed without Ja Morant right now. Here's why Rookie of the Year won't be a one-man race. I disagree with that. I saw some people saying like, oh, well, Chet can win Rookie of the Year. Stop it. Just stop. Get out of here. It's going to be Wemby. Like, stop. Luka and Kyrie combo will be better in 2023 to 2024. It depends on what metrics you say better. I do think that they're gonna mesh well together better this season, obviously because they have more time to do so. The trade of Luka and Kyrie last season happened super late in the season. But I still don't think that it's gonna be enough for them to get super far in the playoffs because they still have to deal with like who's gonna be that guy. Ime Udoka is back with the Rockets. Even with Paolo Banchero and a solid core, Magic have a ways to go to end playoff drought. I think that the Magic could be a good team this year. I'm definitely going to talk about that with Jeremy when we get him on another podcast episode. But I think they can definitely make the play-in or the 8th seed. But it's just the fact that they're in the Eastern Conference right now, and the Eastern Conference is so stacked. So even if they make the playoffs, obviously they're not going to make it that far because they have to play people like the Celtics, people like the Heat, people like the Bucks. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing what the other teams do with their players. Like if the Celtics and Bucks somehow lose Giannis and lose Tatum or something, which I don't think will ever happen, but you know what I mean. Like they have a solid team. The problem is the other teams are just better, which I mean you can say that summarizes all of sports, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. So The Clippers are hoping for a full season out of Kawhi and Paul George. I'll believe it when I see it. New Orleans ceiling is primed to rise if Zion Williamson is fully fit this season. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. Zion barely plays every season. The Blazers are entering a new era with Scoot Henderson and DeAndre Ayton leading the way. This one I'm actually excited to see. Scoot said that he's ready to take the reins in Portland, and now Damian Lillard is out of the way. They have a decent center now, and I think that with no other guards really on the team, Scoot has a perfect platform to show how great he is. He has nobody else standing in his way. He can go do his thing, and we'll see how well he turns out. So, will the Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert pairing work better in year 2? I doubt it, because Rudy Gobert. International stars are primed to once again dominate the Kia MVP race. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute as well because of international players. Cavaliers eager to learn from their first round playoff loss to breakthrough season. I previously thought that the Cavs were going to be a huge team with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And it sucks to see that they have not succeeded much these past few years. I do think that they're just missing a couple pieces to really be that great team. They have some amazing bigs and some really good guards. And I think they're just missing that one thing that could turn them into a really good team. I've compared them to the Spurs in the past so many times, and I really think that is a good comparison. I really do think that they are trying to make sort of like a 2014 Spurs team, and I think they can do it if they do it the right way, and that will lead them to a championship. You know, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, all of their guards that they have right now, they're just missing that one part, or for their players to not be injured, because Jarrett Allen being injured really has hurt their playoff chances the past couple years. But I think they're right there. Like, I really do think that the Cavaliers have gone under the radar for a while, but they really shouldn't be. Like, the Cavs could be a really decent team if they just put some more puzzle pieces together. So, why offensive efficiency should continue to rise? I have talked about this so many times, I'm not even going to get into that. But the league has moved towards offense for the past, 30 years. And I mean, that's obvious. But I also do think that there should be an asterisk to that, where defense is also on the rise, where defense started to fall off for so long, which led offense to rise. But I do think that nowadays offense and defense are both rising together and jointly, and they weren't the past couple of years. It used to be only offense increasing, defense decreasing, and I do think defense is starting to see an uptick again. So, Jimmy Butler remains the NBA star and need the most help. Talked about that a little bit. Will the Nets or Knicks put the Big Apple on notice? I want to talk about the Nets with Cam Thomas. Phoenix's Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker has put the West on notice. Again, I don't think the Suns are going to make it that far. I don't, to be honest. Everybody's saying it's going to be Suns-Bucks in the finals again. I don't believe that. I think that the Suns are going to lose in the second round at the most. So, what rule change will have the biggest impact? I'd have to dive further into that to give you my thoughts. Scoring title, why Atlanta should manage just fine after trading John Collins. I'm going to talk about that. In-season tournament, why you should not count out LeBron James and the Lakers. I don't think that the Lakers are going to make it far either. The Nuggets have all the pieces they need to defend their NBA championship. Talked about that a little bit. Again, it just depends on their depth, and everybody's saying healthy. So, but, yeah, this is the injury report I was just talking about. Utah Jazz lose Walker Kessler as well. And this goes into the international thing I was going to talk about. So, league to play across 48 games in 4 countries. So the NBA has really tried to push to the international market, obviously. There's basketball in the Olympics now, and it's really making a surge around the world as it has been the last couple of years. And obviously, a lot of the bigger players now are international. You have Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Embiid, even the smaller players like Ben Simmons. Um, like, so many players are international now. And I really do think that that brings in a lot more talent to the NBA rather than just having so many American players. And it really does help the NBA obviously make more money as well, which is why they're doing it. I do want to get into a call with Swiss Eel here soon and really talk more about that, because Swiss Eel has done so much research about the international impact of basketball that he would be able to give a really in-depth knowledge about sort of the economical and talent acquisition with international markets. But I did want to point out that they are playing in 4 different countries this year. So, and this article as well goes into that, with NBA rosters featuring 125 international players from 40 different countries. So, but yeah, I want to talk more about that with Swiss Eel. I won't dive into it too much. So this is going to be a big news story for hardcore NBA fans, but the All-Star Game is making its original return, where so many people complained about the All-Star Game and the way it is. I talked about how the All-Star Game was really trash the past couple of years, and everybody said they just need to go back to the East and West rather than having this bullshit drafting system and all that. And they finally said, okay, we're going to listen to you. We're going back to East versus West. And everybody was like, fuck yeah. Fuck Team LeBron, Team Curry, Team Giannis, all this bullshit. Give us East versus West. And I fucking love that. I'm so hyped for East versus West again. But there's not much to say on that. I'm just people that have wanted East versus West to come back for a while I'm sure are stoked about that. So Bucks 76ers 5 takeaways as Damian Lillard dazzles in debut. Reputations arrive quickly, but trust takes time. Dame asserted dominance. 39 points. Less Dame early means better Dame late. This applies for any player. The less time you spend playing the first couple quarters, the more energy you have in the last couple quarters. And it's called Dame time for a reason. There's going to be Dame's going to play better in the later quarters. And Dame is sort of saying that it's easier for him to score because now he doesn't have to do as much. Again, in Portland, he was responsible for everything, as he says, and now he doesn't have to do that. So, there a little bit of stuff here about Harden. It was mentor versus mentee on the sideline. A little bit about coaching. And then this is just about Giannis's scoring record, which doesn't have to do really with Dame. So Spurs Rockets 5 takeaways as Wembanyama delivers late. Cold shooting night heats up for Wembanyama. Rookie would score 13 out of his 21 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. The Wembanyama WoW files. So just some of his highlights. Jeremy's education at point guard continues, and just talks about Sohan being a guard, We talked about that. Wembanyama's foul trouble for opener correctable. So again, a lot of Wembanyama's mistakes are easy. Spurs spread it out during overtime. So this is sort of what I was talking about and wanted to focus on whenever I was talked about the Spurs at the beginning. 5 different Spurs contributed to the cause in overtime with 3. That foursome shot, 5 for 8 collectively. Sohan and Devin also scored. Vassell ranked up a team-high 25 points as one of the 2 Spurs starters to finish with a positive plus-minus. And they said that they need to be persistent working as a team. So, grading all 30 teams by the NBA. Atlanta Hawks, new power rankings. I want to see if they say anything about Jalen Johnson. What's new about the Hawks? Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. Traded John Collins, but they don't say the other players. What will Kristapz bring to Boston? Already talked about that. Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute with Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas. I'm just seeing if there's anything interesting in these team ratings. Will Donovan Mitchell win the scoring title? Dallas Mavericks, Nuggets, Warriors, Rockets. Rockets focused on defense this year. That's good. Indiana Pacers, Clippers, so on. Yeah. All right. Let's get into Kia MVP. Who do they think is going to be top MVP at the very start of the season? Giannis, that's an easy pick. Devin Booker, I don't think so. There's too much uncertainty with the Suns right now. Steph Curry, you could see. Anthony Davis, I don't think so because, again, AD is always doing something bad for the Lakers. Luka, so I made a tweet a couple years ago, and I still stand by it. It's going to be hard with Kyrie playing on the Mavs now, but I said if Luka doesn't win MVP in the next 5 years, then I don't trust the MVP award anymore. And I think that's still true. Luka has done so much for the Mavericks that he really does deserve an MVP sometime soon. And again, it's going to be a lot harder to do that now with Kyrie because he's got to show that he's more important and better than Kyrie on the Mavs, which I think is easy for him to do. But again, he's got to overshine Kyrie now. But Luka's done so much for the Mavs that he deserves an MVP soon. Kevin Durant, it really depends on how the Suns do. Anthony Edwards, I don't think so. Joel Embiid, I don't think he's going to get it either because Joel Embiid only got it last year because he didn't get it the previous years that he should have gotten it. But then everybody complained when he got it this year because he didn't really deserve it this year. SGA, if the Thunder do really well and make it to the playoffs, SGA could be MVP candidate. LeBron James, LeBron's on the MVP ladder every year. They're just gonna do that for publicity, but I don't think he's gonna win it. Jokic, it's possible, but I think people are getting sort of bored of Jokic getting MVPs. Dame, I think Giannis would win it over Dame, but Donovan Mitchell, these last 3 don't really work. If the Kings were to do really well again this season, I think De'Aaron Fox would win it over Sabonis. I don't know why they don't have De'Aaron Fox in here. And then there's a mock draft too, but we can talk about that next episode. We're coming up on an hour here, which is good. I wanted to talk about some players that I really wanted to point out. So again, Rusty Buckets has talked about some of these. But with John Collins moved, it really does help some players on the Hawks stand out, like Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson is getting some more recognition now, which is good. This happens a lot on NBA teams where these big players leave and sort of these second string or bench players start to score a lot more points and show how good they are. And I think that's a good thing. That's something that we're seeing with the 76ers right now, which I wanted to get into. I think the 76ers players are doing really well. But Jalen Johnson has been scoring about 20 points a game, which I think is really good. And again, John Collins being gone, he's going to get a lot more opportunities. He's sort of an average big guy, but it's still good to show what you can do. Cam Thomas right now is being Cam Thomas. I've talked before about how good of a player Cam Thomas was, but again, he was being overshadowed by Kyrie, Harden, and KD, and he wasn't really able to go do his thing. But I did say that like Cam Thomas was a big part of the Nets and added depth for them, and everybody called me crazy because everybody's like, "Why are you talking about this Cam Thomas dude when clearly the most important people are Kyrie, KD, and Harden?" But I was like, KD or Cam Thomas is a decent piece to the Nets, and we should not be ignoring him. And now that those three players are gone, again, Cam Thomas is able to show what he's able to do now. And I really like that. I've liked Cam Thomas for a while. And I've talked about him multiple times. And I think Cam Thomas can be a really good piece. Scotty Barnes. I think Scotty Barnes is going to be the next inconsistent guy in the league, just like Chris Middleton. There's so many memes about Chris Middleton where sometimes he'll be absolute garbage, and then the next game he'll be Michael Jordan. And Scotty Barnes is sort of having that treatment season to season. Everybody said he was going to be this amazing big when he got drafted. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be one of those really good forwards and centers. And then the next season he did really bad, and then this season he's doing really good again. So I could easily see him doing really good this season and then being really bad the next season and just sort of being an on and off guy. Jalen Duren and the Pistons. I really like that Jalen Duren is coming out and playing more and showing what he can do, because especially when Cade Cunningham comes back from injury, I think that that's going to be a huge thing. I've talked previously about how Marvin Bagley, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Duren could be an actually really good big three, and more people should pay attention to the Pistons because nobody was paying attention to the Kings for a while, and everybody said that the Kings were going to finish, always finish in the bottom of the conference, and then they came back and almost beat the Warriors in the playoffs. And I think we could see the same thing happen to the Pistons in these next few years. People forget that the Pistons used to be a powerhouse back in the day when they had Blake Griffin and everybody else, and then they fell off and were bottom of the conference for a while. And I think with Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham and Marvin Bagley that they could come back again and they could start making the play-in and they could eventually make the playoffs again, and be in the have the Pistons in the playoffs again soon, which would be really exciting. I do think that those big guys paired with Cade Cunningham will be a huge difference and step in the right direction for them, and I'm excited to see that. Kelly Oubre is doing really well. Tyrese Maxey, again, these 76ers players, and especially now that Harden is gone, I really think that they're going to be able to show what they can do because they were doing it before they traded for Harden. Before they traded for Harden, these players were doing really well and shooting from beyond the arc and doing their own little playmaking. And then Harden sort of took the spotlight. And I think that now that Harden's gone, they'll be able to show what they can do again. And Tyrese Maxey is a big example of that. And he's going to show that he is a really good piece to this 76ers team. Grant Williams has also been improving a lot this season, and I wanted to point him out specifically because I have a video about Grant Williams that does not have that many views, but I talked about how he should have been nominated for Most Improved Player a while back because of his stats increasing and his usage increasing so much over one season. I forget which season it was that I did my review of him, but I talked about how his his points, his stats, his shooting percentage, and just everything about him started to increase. And I think that's happening again, where he's on a new team, and his stats are starting to go up, and we're really starting to see a shift with him, which is really good. Um, but I'm really excited to see these more players sort of shine through, especially with all these trades being made. Again, I think that there's too many players that are on the bench now that are sort of seen as average or unimportant or people don't talk about. And when teams trade away these big names, they're able to get more minutes and play better. And I think that's really cool because then they can start being talked about a lot more on um, in not just the podcast, obviously, but like everyday conversation. Like I would love to hear more people talk about Tyrese Maxey or Jalen Johnson rather than talking about Trae Young and Giannis every 5 minutes. But again, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded anything, guys, and I hope y'all understand. I'm gonna try and upload more. I'll try and just upload as I can. Again, I hope y'all understand why it's been a while. I'm going to try and start the Instagram back up and everything. And we'll see how many podcast episodes and videos I get out over these next couple months. But again, I do have 4 or 5 videos planned right now. I just need to record and edit them. So at least I am not like fresh out of ideas and starting from scratch right now. But I hope y'all are excited for that. I want to grow this channel, and I missed you guys. I love you guys, and I hope to see you in the next episode and in the next few videos. But I think that's all. I need to get a haircut. I'm aware, all that good stuff. But love you guys, and peace out. Nathan Budnett, episode 51.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.